Got sweat? Today's episode is going to be about your air conditioning in your vehicle. You ever get into your best clothes on Sunday, or your suit, or your nice pretty dress, and you're headed out to an important event in your life, like a baby shower or a wedding or a job interview, and you get in your car, it's 140 degrees, and then you start sweating because your car's AC isn't working? Well, today we're going to talk about how we can prevent that from happening to you on that special day. So there are a lot of components that go into the air conditioning in an automotive application, but I'm going to give you a little overview of how the system generally works. Inside your cabin is very hot in the summertime, so we're trying to cool that down. And so what happens is we'll take that hot air and all the humidity and moisture that's inside your cabin, and it'll get drawn in to the system, and the compressor will take that hot air. It'll compress a liquid gas, and it'll make it high pressure, if you will, and it goes into a condenser. The condenser sits out here, and that's where the heat transfer happens. So that hot air that was inside your cabin is going to get compressed by the compressor out to the condenser, where it'll dissipate all that heat. And as you're driving down the road, it'll cool that condenser down, and that'll send it back into the cabin as cooled air through the evaporator core, where that thing becomes very cold, and we blow with your blower motor inside the cabin across that evaporator, so that it now brings in cooler air. And that cycle continues and continues and continues, and the longer it runs, the cooler it'll get inside your cabin. The big thing to know about that is people put their AC on, it's 140 degrees in the parking lot, and they say, wow, it's not working, it's not working. Well, it is working, it takes time. So I always tell people the best thing to do, roll down your windows, get moving, help get some of that hot air out of the cabin, and then the AC can be more efficient and cool your car down quicker. So just because it's not working right off as soon as you hit the on button, doesn't mean it's not working. But we'll talk about how we can prevent it from failing in our next segment. So the next thing is, when do we actually service the air conditioning system? Well, typically customers come in and they say, well, it's not blowing cold air. So there's a few things we can look at, but right away the first thing we're going to do is hook up a machine like this, and we're going to check the pressures, and we're going to do inside in the cabin, we're going to do a temperature drop on the vent, just to measure what the temperature, if it's dropping sufficiently enough. But we can tell a lot by the pressures and whether or not the system is low on refrigerant. And there's ways to prevent this we'll talk about later. But if pressures aren't where they're supposed to be, that's when we'll recommend a AC service, where we drain, or we recover, drain, evacuate, and recharge. So basically, the system is a fixed system. It's got a fixed amount of refrigerant in it, and when it leaks out, the only way to put the right amount back in is to bring it back down to zero, if you will. So we evacuate all of the refrigerant, all of the oil, and then we start from baseline zero, and we put the required specification of charge and oil back into the system. And that's done all through this machine. So briefly, I wanted to discuss why the refrigerant actually leaks out, and what you can do to prevent certain things and be ahead of it, so that you don't have major expensive component failures. And a lot of what happens in an automotive system, unlike your house, your car is moving down the road, your engine is torquing, it's on motor mounts that are rubber isolated. So all the AC components are tied to the engine, and all the lines and the fittings. There's rubber line, there's hard line, there's a lot more connections than in your house system. And all of that is moving down the road, and all the time going like this, every time you step on the gas. And so that puts a lot of stress on those connections, those components, and that can introduce small leaks. The system only holds, on an R134 system, is only about 2 pounds in the normal car. A lot less in the newer systems, which we'll talk about later. But just know that when that refrigerant leaks, not only does the refrigerant leak out, the lower you get on refrigerant, the less capable it is to move the oil in the system. So the oil doesn't rotate through the system to lubricate the compressor, and then the compressor will have a catastrophic failure. So being low in refrigerant will make your car not cool efficiently. It'll make the AC work harder, but on top of that, it'll stop circulating that oil, and there's only about 2 ounces of oil in any system. And so once the compressor stops for oil, just like your engine, it'll blow up. So there's a lot of ways you can prevent that. You know, there is no set manufacturer's recommendation, but we find that, you know, every 2 years or so, if not every season, get in the habit of having somebody put a machine like this on there where we can, you know, check the temperature, check the pressures and see if you're low in refrigerant. If you're low, that's when we would go and do that evacuation and put the system back to specifications. So in closing, the best maintenance you can do is much like your body, is pay attention to your vehicle. So if you start to hear any noises under the hood when you turn on your air conditioning, or if you feel that it's not cooling as good as it once did, that's the time before things break, is to get it over to a professional. The air conditioning is quite complex and should only be done by professionals who know what they're doing and have the proper tools to do so. So come visit one of our AutoCare Plus locations and we'll make sure we take good care of you.
Thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more tips and tricks just like this.